Hey everybody, we're going to review the Hoka Clifton 10.
The Hoka Clifton 10 may be Hoka's biggest upgrade in years. They're not perfect, but here's what you need to know before you buy them. We're going to go over objective testing scores and give you an overall score of the Clifton 10 at the end. If you don't know who we are, MountaineerJourney.com is on a mission to building the most comprehensive, unbiased database of real-world gear testing so you can save your money and never have to worry about returns again. Visit MountaineerJourney.com for more in-depth reviews and comparisons. The best deals are linked below. If you use them, we earn a small commission at no extra cost to you. That's how we buy our own gear, stay sponsored free, and keep those reviews honest. Your click directly supports that. For the Hoka Clifton 10, we rated the comfort an 8.5 out of 10. That is top 5 of our trail runners and comes in the top 3 out of our walking shoes, running shoes, and trail running shoes. So comfort is obviously a top priority of these shoes. Definitely the biggest thing I noticed is you have instant stepping comfort. When I put them on, you definitely have a familiar cushy feel to the Clifton 9. There's even more cushioning in this model. The midsole is definitely very responsive and bouncy, and your foot sinks slightly in the midsole. There's way more heel cushioning, which we'll get into in a second. The toe box is wider. Overall, it is one of the most heavily cushioned shoes I've ever tried on before. In the past, the Clifton 10 did tend to run narrow. However, I did get this in the wide size, but I really didn't feel like I needed the wide size. I had the Clifton 9 in the normal width, but I decided to upgrade to the 10 wide size because I heard some early reviews that it tended to run more narrow than the Clifton 9. However, I didn't find that to be necessarily true. The shock absorption is elite in these shoes. As you can see, take a look at the nice heel cushioning here. It's definitely one of the best shock absorptions I've ever tested in a shoe before. It has the compression molded EVA midsole, which is extremely cushy. There is no impact on your lower body, so don't worry about sore ankles, sore knees. The shock absorption definitely reminds me of the Clifton 9, but it's even better. Definitely one of the best cushioned shoes Hoka has ever made. They did have a 3mm increase in heel to toe drop. Heel to toe drop is the difference between the heel and the forefoot of the shoe and how much the cushioning comes up off the ground. So it's at 8mm, which is on the higher end. For you runners out there, if you're mainly a heel striker or a midfoot striker, that's good for you. However, compared to the Clifton 9 that had a 5mm heel to toe drop, that was more neutral for every type of striker. If you're a forefoot striker, the Clifton 10 may not be the best for you. I definitely noticed way less strain on my calves as well as my Achilles tendonitis, which is great. Like I said, for heel strikers and midfoot strikers, it's an excellent walking shoe because everybody heel strikes when they are walking. Now the stack height was definitely increased. It's at 42mm, which is really high. Like I said, this is definitely one of the best cushioned shoes you can definitely get. However, as you can see the imprints here after testing on this Clifton 10, over time, when you have a really high stack height, that repeated pounding and shock on these shoes is going to make this sole flatten out and it's going to become wider. So that's why the maximum cushioning is not always the best for the long-term durability. However, if you were just somebody who was looking for comfort, like I said, this is a great model. Personally, I wish they kept it at a 5mm heel to toe drop because it was best for everybody, no matter what type of striker you are. The toe box measured at 2.72 inches, which was really good for a running shoe. Remember that this is the wide size. I think if they made the toe box slightly wider, it would have definitely allowed for your toes to splay out more for better stability and a wider platform, but overall, no issues with the toe box. One great upgrade of the Clifton 10 is the tongue. It's extremely well padded. Some people had some issues with the Clifton 9 pressing too hard on their forefoot. This one is definitely more plush and isn't as conforming. The best thing about the Clifton 10 is really when you're putting out a bunch of miles, especially running, there's these small pain points that can really bother you, whether it's the heel, the tongue, any sort of small compressive point. The great thing is I didn't notice any of that on the Clifton 10. It's definitely a quiet win for sure. They have new ventilation pockets compared to the Clifton 9, and it's a more breathable model. So people who are running or walking in the summertime, no issues with breathability. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about was the Hoka Meta Rocker. What that is they basically change how the curvature of the shoe goes around the metatarsal heads. What that does is it allows a forward propulsion of your foot when you're walking or running. What's great about the Meta Rocker is it feels like the shoe is much lighter than it actually is. It's definitely not the most lightweight shoe because of all the cushioning. However, the feel of the shoe when you're walking on it is excellent because of the Meta Rocker, and it gives you a more efficient stride as well. Definitely less pounding and less heel strain. So the Meta Rocker combined with the increased drop creates a deadly smooth roll, and it feels a lot lighter than it actually is. If you're someone who worries about comfort only for walking, running, or even light trail work, the Clifton 10 definitely delivers on comfort. No questions asked, it is top 3 for comfort. Let's get into traction. It has the Dura Abrasion rubber outsole. It's very soft, however very grippy, and they have these upgrades here on the forefoot compared to the Clifton 9, which I really liked right here. It gives you a nice crisp push-off when you're walking or running. It works well on pavement and gravel. I also tested the Clifton 10 as a trail running shoe. The traction is definitely comparable to a moderate trail runner. So if you're somebody who does some light trail running as well as running on smooth surfaces, Clifton 10 is a good choice. The lugs are decently spaced apart. One downside is when I tested the 10 on moderate uneven terrain, I slipped a few times because the lugs, as you can see, are very shallow. They don't dig into wet surfaces like mud easily, especially for a trail runner. Definitely not a deal breaker, but if you're only running on technical trails, this is not for you. However, running or walking on flat surfaces, the traction is definitely above average. One of the best features of the Clifton 10 is the flexibility, as you can see here. It feels very fast because the natural flexibility allows you to really drive into your stride, even if you're forefoot striking, and it gives you a really good effortless push off. However, that same flexibility is a double-edged sword. It's great for road running, but it's not ideal for technical rocky trails where you need more torsional rigidity. A good feature of the Clifton 10 is transitioning from gravel to asphalt. It's definitely an all-terrain shoe, and it's able to easily transition terrains without any signs of reduced grip or traction. It's definitely better than something like the Speedgoat 6, which was definitely a disappointment in this last year. So it's one of the best everyday trainers for runners who are between sidewalks, parks, gravel paths, even light trails. The traction is definitely not good for somebody who needs a technical trail runner. Overall, for a walker or everyday runner, the traction is excellent. Stability and support are rated at 8.5 out of 10. It's marketed as a neutral daily trainer. However, I put it closer to a stable daily runner, especially for casual to moderate training. They have the rear foot focused active frame. It improves the stability in the hind foot, especially during the impact when you're running. As you can see right here, the torsional rigidity of the heel is a lot better than the midfoot and the forefoot. If you're a heel striker or midfoot striker, it really helps with that stability. It is a very subtle difference, prevented me from over-pronating a lot more than I actually used to with the Clifton 9. The upper is definitely upgraded. It cradles your foot better and internally hugs it, so your foot doesn't have a lot of internal movement when you're running or walking. So for stability, I tested the Clifton 10 while heel striking, midfoot striking, and forefoot striking just to notice the difference. The stability and support while heel striking and midfoot striking is excellent, one of the best. While forefoot striking, it's not the best because of the new heel to toe drop. So if you're a runner who's looking for responsiveness, you want some ground contact feel, the Clifton 10 isn't the best. Like I said, the cushioning takes away from that. You can't have a very well cushioned shoe and have great responsiveness as well. You need that reduced cushioning here to really get that ground feel. They definitely improved on the wide platform. It gives you better balance and control. Overall, as an upgraded shoe, the stability and support is pretty good. We rated the weight of the Clifton 10 an 8.5 out of 10. It weighs 9 ounces, which is obviously not an ultralight shoe. However, for the amount of cushioning and the really high stack height, the weight is pretty impressive. I didn't have any issues with foot fatigue while I was walking or running. The Meta Rocker definitely adds a lightweight feel to the shoe. So overall, the weight is not the best with the Clifton 10, but that's expected with the amount of cushioning it has. Fit for the Clifton 10, we rated a 9 out of 10. It fits excellently. The toe box is definitely wider than the 9. That was a huge complaint people had with the last model. I do think it could have been a little bit wider, but I'm happy with what they settled on. So I have a men's 10.5 wide, and it fit true to size, no issues. I really felt like I could have used a regular size and still had no issues. I didn't have any sort of heel slippage. My heel was nice and locked in. And thanks to the flexibility and voluminous feel of this shoe, it's very inviting for a lot of people. So whatever type of foot shape you have, it definitely will fit you great. And one of the best things about the Clifton 10 is there's no break-in period. I went on my first run for 3 miles, and I did not have to break them in further at all. Value, rated a 4.5 out of 5. Value really based on how much you get for what you pay in this shoe. And for the price of $145, it's definitely not the cheapest cheapest daily trainer, but things you need to factor in are the comfort, the cushioning, the versatility. It definitely delivers a serious bang for the buck. Like I said, the Clifton 10 works across multiple cases, daily runs, walking, light trail sessions. It's definitely valuable if you're not going to be rotating through shoes and you just want one shoe that will accomplish everything. That's really where you get the value of the Clifton 10. We gave it an overall score of 8.6 out of 10. So it definitely has some great upgrades, and I really don't think you're going to go wrong if you pick this shoe. At mountaineerjourney.com, we named it one of the most versatile shoes of this year. I'll drop a link below if you want the lowest pricing on the Clifton 10. If you also found this helpful, hit that like button. Consider subscribing because we have a bunch of new gear reviews and comparisons coming this summer, so you don't want to miss those. Also, don't forget to check out mountaineerjourney.com for more reviews and comparisons. And there are things on our Clifton 10 review that we weren't able to go over in this video that are on our website. Please check it out.